This is Jilliana Ranicar-Breese, and I'm here in Brighton with Lucy Rowett, who is a... how would you describe yourself, Lucy?
I thought you were going to introduce me.
I think you can do a better job.
I am a certified sex coach and clinical sexologist.
And how can you give a sort of more in-depth meaning to that?
So,
because that's quite a title.
It is. It's quite cool to have the word sex in my title. So I work with individuals and couples with sexual concerns. So a sex coach works with, it could be men, women, couples, people who identify as either, transgender people. Basically, when people have a problem within their sex and relationships, they come to me and I help them work through it. Coaching, I have to be very clear that I'm a coach, not a therapist. Coaching is much more short-term, solution-focused and goal-oriented.
What's the difference? What is a sex therapist then?
A sex therapist, well, depending on the training that they have, therapy works on the model of therapy, a therapeutic model. So it can work more with past memories, more with childhood traumas. It can work more with really deep emotional processing. Coaching is much more present focused and future focused. So therapy can take a longer period of time. I think it depends on the therapist, whether they are a traditional sex therapist, a psychosexual therapist, or whatever training they've had. I don't think in the UK there is a legal requirement to be trained as a sex therapist to call yourself a sex therapist.
And what training did you have? Because it was in Poland, wasn't it?
Yes and no. So my training was with an American organisation called Sex Coach University. So the training was a mixture of correspondence and live training. So I worked through different student journals and I had a student advisor. We had 2 community calls a month and then I did live training. The live training either happens every year in Poland or in Los Angeles. So I did mine in Poland.
Right. When you say live training...
Live training. So this is face-to-face training in a specific centre or location. Because the majority of my training was correspondence, so it was through video lectures, reading materials, talking with my student advisor. This training had to be done live. So this training was called Sexual Attitude Reassessment and Restructuring, or SAR. And this has to be done live. There are various ways of doing SAR. It comes originally from America. If you want to be certified by the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors and Therapists, you have to have done a SAR. The way that we did it was a 2-day intensive. It was 2 full 8-hour days of watching various multimedia materials of different sexual expressions and behaviours, guest speakers, a few interactive workshops. And SAR is designed as a sensitivity training. So it's meant to kind of push your buttons, make you question your own values, attitudes and beliefs around sexuality. And it sort of makes you really question where do you stand on certain issues, because I think that when you go into this field, you tend to think that you're very open-minded. You do a SAR and also you do my training and you realise there's some things that will push a button and some things that will make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So SAR is meant to help you expand your container.
So how long have you been in the business, so to speak?
The business. So I have been certified for just under a year. I've also been working behind the scenes with my training program and with other sexuality professionals, helping them with their social media and digital presence. So I think I've been on the scene, so to speak, for a few years now, at least.
And
2 or 3 years.
How did you get involved in the first place? Tell me the story.
So I always knew I wanted to do something I was passionate about, and I think it was after having a health crisis that I realised that life was too short not to do what I really loved doing. And so,
what did you love doing?
That's very, very suggestive. That's very
No,
suggestive.
I only asked the question.
Okay, but I have to make it very clear that with my clients, I don't touch my clients. The work is talk only. When I say what I love doing, God, now you're saying that makes me rethink all the other interviews I've done where it could have been misconstrued. I'm very passionate about human sexuality and the study of sexology. Sexology is a real field of study. It is the study of human sexuality and how we think and feel about it. And I'm very passionate about the study of human sexuality. I'm passionate about many, many aspects of it. And I guess I love this training, and when I say that I love this training and I love this work, I'm always learning new things. It's such a taboo topic, and it's so interesting, and the more you learn, the more you realise that it underpins everything.
And the more you learn, the less you know, right?
Yeah, the more I learn, the less I know. I feel sometimes with the training that I did, it was only sort of the beginning. I feel like there's still more. I'm learning. I learn with each client. I learn with each new training I do.
And you give lectures as well, don't you?
I give talks in various different locations. So I would like to do lectures maybe. I think the training...
So you make the differentiate between a talk and a lecture?
Well, I think a lecture sort of implies sort of university study or, teaching to academics. I'm not quite at that field or that level just yet. I'd like to.
Right.
I do talks at various events, and I do public speaking. I do regular Facebook Lives on my social media channel, and I do Instagram Lives. I do a lot of speaking.
Right. Right. And you mentioned a new organisation in Brighton, did you not?
So I started the Brighton Sexuality Professionals Meetup, and it's a Facebook page and a group, and we are a group of very diverse sexuality professionals, which includes therapists, coaches, body workers, tantrikas, pro-doms, and I wanted to include sex workers as well, because I believe that we are all working...
I was going to ask you about prostitution.
Prostitution, sex work.
Sex work, yeah, sex workers.
So I guess going back to the Brighton Sexuality Professionals, I wanted to create a community of sex-positive professionals, so people who are working with sexuality in any capacity, because we're all doing pretty much the same work, we're all on the same side, but there can be... a hierarchy of sexology sometimes, where you have medical doctors at the top, and then you have the sex therapists, or you might have researchers, and at the bottom you have sex therapists. I think sex coaches, we're somewhere in the middle, and that there's a hierarchy in there, even though that the people further down, whatever further down means, people working with touch, people working with the body, they're seen as not being as competent or as professional or as qualified as someone who's a medical doctor, when that's not always the case.
But usually doctors don't give advice on sexuality at all.
Well, the statistic is that when most students go through medical training, so when they do, they train as a doctor or a nurse, and also therapeutic training, they receive between about 6 to 10 hours of training in human sexuality in total, which is hardly anything. And the training that they would receive on sexuality tends to be can be more conservative, can be more pathologizing. Certainly in the UK, a lot of sex therapy trainings do seem to work from a very outdated model. Not all of them. I'm very proud that the training and the organisation I come from, we're very progressive. We're very much focused on wholeness and wellness. We don't use the words dysfunction. We don't focus on pathologizing. We don't focus on diagnosing people. We work to help people experience whatever they want to experience. There is a tendency within therapy and the medical world to pathologize certain sexual behaviors and orientations. If you think about it, 50 years ago, homosexuality was seen as a mental illness. It was seen as something wrong with you. Now the issue is around people who practice BDSM or kink. That's still seen as something pathological. There's a whole debate around sex addiction. Is that a real addiction? Is it a real mental illness? There's still a lot of conflict around that within the therapeutic world and the psychiatric world. I've lost my train of thought now. So this is where I come from. I come from a very sex positive, holistic model. But there are many sex therapy trainings that do come from this model as well. I don't want to kind of say that they're all bad, but I certainly have noticed that there are some sex therapy trainings and sexology trainings that are very outdated.
Right. And would you say that English therapists are limited, outdated? I mean, America is very
I think
in the fore, you might say, with...
I mean, in America, you have ASECT, which I've said, American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors and Therapists.
California, shall we say.
California, yeah. I think America is very divided,
yes,
even more divided at the moment. But you have organisations like ASECT, CECUS, Planned Parenthood. Quad S, which is the Society for the Scientific Study of Sexuality. So that I don't want to say that the UK is, it just depends, but I would like to see more progression within the UK.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucy.